Newsmaker Sunday with Fox 10's John Hook.
Well, he had an illustrious career with the Arizona State Sun Devils. Threw for a lot of yards, threw for a lot of touchdowns, and was probably one of the finer quarterbacks the university's ever produced. And then, of course, he was a pick of the Oakland Raiders in the draft in 2005. Now he wants to be the congressman from District 9 in Arizona, which encompasses Maricopa County, Tempe, parts of Mesa, Scottsdale, Chandler, Paradise Valley, and Phoenix. Number 16, Andrew Walter, our guest on Newsmaker Sunday. Good to see you.
Good to be with you, John.
I watched you for years playing quarterback, and first of all, how does that skill set translate into the political world?
Well, clearly I didn't get beat up enough playing quarterback for all those years, so I decided to enter politics. Someone told me along the way that football and politics are very similar. There are just no referees in politics.
Right. Well, maybe the press, but I don't know about that even.
Right, exactly. So it's, certainly two things come to mind. One, leadership. I remember a story against Kansas State, Arizona State, and then Holiday Bowl, and I take a shot to my lower back and I break 3 vertebrae. And I was a team captain at the time, my sophomore season, and I stayed in the game because I just felt that's what leaders should do. And I hold that responsibility very dear. And that's one aspect that I think transfers incredibly well to this.
Playing through the pain, just gutting it out.
Absolutely, understanding the responsibility and taking it very seriously. The other one's teamwork. And, taking guys who have very diverse backgrounds, races, religions, creeds, orientations, you name it, and getting everybody going in the same direction. That's not an easy task, but that's something that I learned playing football.
When you finished your football career with the Raiders and then the Patriots
right
at the tail end, you then go back to school and finish up, right?
Well, I went back to earn my MBA.
And you got that in business administration, right?
Correct, yes. So I was fortunate enough to graduate in 4 years during my undergrad and during my playing days at ASU, but I did feel like I wanted to improve my skills, and in particular in business. And so Arizona State has a pretty good business school over there at the W.P. Carey. So I did decide to go back and pursue that. And
then when did politics start to crystallize in your mind, Andrew, where you said, this is something I think I want to do?
Well, only very seriously probably a couple months ago. But in terms of where has the desire, where did it spring from? Well, probably around the dinner table. Growing up, having discussions about religion and politics and government and philosophy and all these things. And, I remember one story my grandmother told me when I was a kid that this has sort of helped shape my view on life and in particular politics. She grew up in Oklahoma in the Great Depression, dirt poor, and came home with an orange one day. Her dad sees it, asked her where she got it. She said, the teacher. His very next question, did you do any work to earn the orange? She said, no. So he made her march all the way back to school to work for the teacher to earn the orange. And that principle stuck with me, that we were we only realize our full potential when we put our hands to work and earn our rewards. And that's something that I think has really shaped my outlook on life.
You grew up here in Scottsdale, but you also spent time in Grand Junction, Colorado, which interestingly enough, that was my first TV market, was Grand Junction in 1984-85. These are pretty conservative parts that you grew up in.
Sure.
Family Republicans?
They are. They are. Not all.
Not all.
Not all. No, and that makes for a very lively Thanksgiving. I can assure you that.
Right. And you went to Saguaro, right? Or I'm sorry, Chaparral.
No, I went to high school in Grand Junction.
That's right. You were there, so you didn't go here at all.
No, but spent 10 years here, the first 10 years of my life, and then middle school, high school, and Grand Junction. And
so that was all 4 years in Grand Junction. That I didn't realize. I thought you spent a couple of years here, but you were there the whole 4 years. What took you to Grand Junction?
Well, my dad's a pilot for Southwest Airlines, and the idea of us growing up in a small, we never locked our doors at night. If you, at 14, you could find me driving over to my grandparents' house down the street. I mean, things you can get away with in a very small town, and but safe the entire time. So that's really the reason why my parents decided to move us to Colorado.
Tell me a little bit about your political philosophy. If there were some people that you look to and you say, that's my guy, or that's the woman that I respect and admire, and that's who would these beacons for you be?
Sure. Well, in terms of the Hall of Fame, you have George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, Ronald Reagan. In terms of modern politics, I really like a lot of what Rand Paul says and stands for. But more than that, I don't necessarily identify with any one person. You know, I just believe in an effective and efficient government that spends what it brings in and doesn't waste hardworking taxpayer dollars. You know, I believe
You're a fiscal conservative.
Very, absolutely. You bet. You know, we've reached the point in our country's history where I believe that, you know, we really have to evaluate our spending, you know, our national debt, these things that, unfortunately, our friends on the left, I haven't heard any serious proposals to rein in the massive government spending. Moreover, I would say the trust in our elected officials, given recent events, especially with IRS, Benghazi, Fast and Furious, AP, among others, that foundation has been fractured. And that's something we need to get back. And so I believe in offering common sense solutions, not partisan solutions, you know, not party solutions. So much of politics, you know, we need to focus on people and not these political games. And so I want to offer that voice to the people.
Is there something, Andrew, obviously Kyrsten Sinema, she's been in the political world for a long time. She's been a frequent guest on this program. She's a delightful woman. But philosophically, you guys are at different ends of the spectrum. That district, District 9, if I'm not mistaken, the biggest chunk of voters are independents in that district. So you've got to kind of be a middle of the road, whatever you are, Democrat or Republican, to win. But specifically about Kyrsten, what is it about her that you said, I've got to get that seat. I want to knock her off? Not just ambition, but you look at it and you say, these are things where we differ, and I'm going to fight the good fight to try to win that seat. What are the issues? Well,
first and foremost, the one that comes to mind is I have no interest in being a career politician. Probably one of the only guests you'll ever have that will say that, and I'm saying it purposefully because that's the way I believe. I don't believe...
You'd term limit yourself?
I would, absolutely, and I would also vote for term limits. That probably won't make me very popular amongst people in Washington, but absolutely I would. And, you know, I see in our current representative someone who would love to carve out a nice 30-year career in politics. I think you lose touch. I think the vortex that is Washington, D.C. Causes you to lose touch with we the people. But in terms of issues, you bring up that, and I think it's incredibly important. Recently, this last week in particular, there was a vote to repeal the Affordable Care Act.
There have been many votes to repeal the Affordable Care Act. I think there were 30 alone the other day.
Right. And unfortunately, she voted no. This is something that will increase the cost and has already increased the cost of premiums. This is something that will reduce the quality of care, and this is something that workers and families, you know, cannot afford. And so we have this on our horizon. Essentially, we're going to a two-tier employment structure where those of us who are fortunate enough to have full-time jobs and benefits, and then the rest will be forced to pick up two part-time jobs, and they won't have any benefits, and that's a direct result of this legislation. So I just believe...
Is that the big issue for you? Is it health care?
That is one big issue.
And government spending.
Government spending, but you know, our economy is languishing below mediocrity for the longest period post-recession in American history. Normally, the American economy comes back like gangbusters after a recession, but this time has been different. Well, why is that? Because of the policies that we're embracing.
Have you had any dialogue with her at all? Have you met her? Kyrsten?
I have not, no.
Sinema?
I understand everything you pointed out, that she's a wonderful person and has a great personality, but I have not had a chance to meet her.
If you were elected, let me get back to this term limiting thing. This is an interesting concept because Matt Salmon did it. He term limited himself out of the East Valley. Would you put a number on it and say 6 years? That would be 3 terms in the House, and I'm done. Or have you put a number on it?
Haven't put a number on it, but if it's 6, 8, 10, whatever that is, I would abide by that, absolutely.
Are you thinking of putting a definite marker on it?
Yes, and my wife-to-be probably does have a definitive number in her mind.
You're getting married Saturday, right?
I am, so I can guarantee you she's going to have a number in her mind when I go ask her.
If there were one thing, we've got about a minute left, if there were one thing you would want to accomplish in Congress, what would it be?
Getting our economy on the right track, you know, embracing, simplifying the tax code, balancing our budget, and reforming regulation. You know, regulation kills jobs, and that would be the biggest thing. Taking the pressure off of, you know, families and workers. Goods and services, the prices for all these have increased over the recent years. Food, gas, clothes, tuition, health care, you name it. Well, someone needs to go to Washington and fight for workers and families, and that's exactly what I want to do. They need an advocate.
You're really not breaking new ground here. I think of guys in Congress who played football at a high level. Steve Largent, J.C. Watts, Jack Kemp, quarterback for the Buffalo Bills.
He was a Hall of Famer.
He was a Hall of Famer. I mean, there have been guys who have done this, and this is a transition that has been made before.
It has. John Runyon would be the most recent,
right,
out of New Jersey. He played offensive line for the Eagles. You know, the principles that you learn in team sports translate into life so very well, and so I would always encourage those. You know, hopefully, Lord willing, my kids will be able to play team sports. It just builds a camaraderie, a discipline, sacrificing for your fellow man that you really carry forward the rest of your life. So hopefully, it's a transition I can make as well.
And you've been doing, you've been in your own business here in the interim after getting your MBA and now running for Congress. Andrew, it was Walter Holdings, correct?
Correct, yes.
And what did that company do?
A little lending business. I started when I went back to ASU to earn my MBA. Sitting in class one day, and I remember something my grandfather told me: nothing in life moves until it's financed. And I had no idea what he meant at the time.
Political campaigns is right,
but it certainly does.
Andrew Walter, former quarterback for ASU, fine quarterback in the NFL, career too short, unfortunately, with the Raiders and the Patriots. Andrew Walter's been our guest. Coming up next on Newsmaker Sunday, Arizona Governor Jan Brewer talking about expanding Medicaid in the state. We'll hear from the governor. She joins me on the program in a moment. Back in a minute on Newsmaker Sunday. Thanks, Andrew.
Yeah, thanks, Sean.
Great to see you. Welcome back on Newsmaker Sunday. I can't believe that she's getting second billing today behind Andrew Walter, but the 22nd governor of the state of Arizona is our guest in the second part of the program. Great to see you, Governor.
Thank you, John. I am pleased to be here. This is a good day.
This is a big day because the Arizona Senate just advanced this historic measure that will expand Medicaid to about 300,000 low-income Arizonans. You didn't like Obamacare at all.
No.
How did you end up backing this idea?
I was opposed. I fought vigorously.
You did?
Against Obama health care. I took it to court. I led the charge, and we lost. Elections have consequences. President Obama won. The Supreme Court upheld it.
Does it hurt you to say that?
Yeah, it does, because I don't think Obamacare on its entirety is a good thing. I think it's bad for Arizona and bad for America. But the little tiny piece that's included underneath there is Medicaid, which we call Access here in Arizona, something that we have had in place for years.
Since Bruce Babbitt.
Yes, and I was in the legislature back then.
That's right.
And prior to that, we delivered health care to the poor, or those needy people, by the county. And we've evolved from no health care to the county, and then to Access Medicaid program. And I pondered long and hard to do what I believe is right. And I came up with the conclusion: the voters have twice voted for Medicaid on the expansion, and I decided I'm going to move forward and do what's right.
You actually stalled these folks out at the Capitol. You said you weren't going to sign any more bills until they address this.
Well, actually, what I did say is, don't send me any more bills.
Yeah, that's it. You're done.
Right.
So that just put a little more fire and urgency to it.
Right. Well, to do the people's work, we need a budget, and we need to address it, and we can't do the budget without the Medicaid portion of it, because that's a great portion.
Is this kind of a, if you can't beat them, join them decision on your part to say, look, as you said, Obama won. He won the election. And given the fiscal situation in Arizona, to go your own way on this, that would be even more money, right?
Oh,
that the state can't afford.
Oh, it would cost the state.
So was it a money
enormous
decision, do you think,
it was the right thing to do. It was the moral thing right to do. It was to also do what the voters have twice voted for. And the bottom line is that it would take money. If we were to do it on our own, out of our budget, our general fund dollars, we'd have to cut education, public safety, and we just got our budget in line. We just got a balanced budget with a positive cash carry forward. Why would we want to go up and mess up the plan that I instituted, 5 years ago, 4 years ago? And it's been successful. My plan has been successful for Arizona. And let me say this, I truly believe, and I think most people will believe it, we all pay our federal taxes and we send it into the federal government. So why don't we take our federal dollars and bring them back? The federal government
that's an interesting thought.
The federal government has had those dollars for a long time, and they're not handling it very well.
So you're saying it's our money anyway?
Bring it back and put it to good use. Put it to good use for the people of Arizona.
You had what? You had really Democrats supporting you on this.
I did.
This was a total flip.
Bipartisan. It was bipartisan.
But you had 6 Republicans. How much arm twisting to get those 6 Republicans on